Hey, welcome back to the Corporate Finance Academy. Today we are going to go through the sales and production budget. All right, so we're going to go through an introduction, re-ground you in the annual operating plan process and what that looks like. Then we're going to talk about the sales plan, the production plan, and then we'll wrap things up. Okay, so the sales and production budget. Overall, the sales and production budget is part of the annual operating plan. They are critical pieces of it. And the annual operating plan is how companies set their strategic goals and how we get the businesses aligned, get leadership aligned, set targets. It works for bonuses and compensation packages. And if you want to know more detail on the annual operating plan, click the link in the description for more detail. We have another video on it. And if you really want to learn more, we have a budgeting bootcamp on our site. Be sure to check it out. It's a wonderful course which gets into detail on all things annual operating plan and budgeting. Okay, so just to re-ground you real quick, the annual budget is made of all these pieces, and you can work your way down. But the first step of the annual budget is the sales budget, and we'll get into more about what that means. But you've got the sales budget, the production or purchasing budget, all these other pieces, and ultimately everything's going to formulate itself or flow into financial statements, which are the end financial product. But really what you're trying to get to is a strategic plan for the business. So we shouldn't forget about that. Before we get into any details, I want to re-ground everybody on tops down versus bottoms up. And again, we have a video specifically on this. So if you go check that out, you can learn a little bit more. But at the highest level, tops down is really kind of a leadership assumption. You're taking, when leadership or a finance leader or someone takes some high-level assumptions, runs it out and says this is what you should do based on these high-level factors like what is GDP going to grow by, what's our market growth going to be, those type of things. And the benefit to this is that they're faster, they're easier, they're simpler. It gives you more time to focus on strategy. You eliminate a lot of the back and forth. But on the flip side, they're generally less accurate. It becomes very difficult to explain why you missed your operating plan if you don't have a bottoms up, if you just have these high level assumptions. And you're missing out on uncovering issues, finding opportunities, all the things you're able to do as you go through the bottoms up process. And lastly on this, and certainly not the last con, but people don't feel bought into the budget or the operating plan if they aren't a part of it, if they aren't understanding all the details that go into it and why the target is set the way that it's set. Now on the bottoms up side, this is where you start at the bottom. You work with the lower level employees, the sales team, the production team, and you build it all the way up to the leadership team. You take customer inputs, you learn environmental factors, competitive factors, things within your business. You build it up piece by piece. And what this gives you on the pro side is way more detail. You're going to find potential issues, blind spots, opportunities to build on. You're going to talk through variances. You're going to use this for departmental or divisional planning and execution. So you're going to build it up and people are going to know, here's how many people we need to hire. Here's how many things we need to buy. And it forces thought behind it. And ultimately people feel better. They feel bought in when this process is completed. On the other side of this one, definitely takes longer. There's a lot of coordination that needs to go on. It's a lot of effort. Sometimes you can get caught up in the details and kind of forget to step back and see the big picture. And people sandbag and there's posturing and political maneuvering to try to get to these numbers. So that piece can be a con for sure. So now, the purpose of the sales plan. It's really the plan upon which all the other plans are built. Everything follows the sales plan. It's going to give you the guidance so you know how much to make, how many people you need to make it, and what materials you need. And those things aren't actually done in the sales plan, but you need to know the sales plan in order to do those things. So it's going to inform all these other areas of the budget. It's going to tell you, do you need CapEx? Do you need to hire salespeople? And it gives the sales team targets to align incentives. So when you go through this, what this is going to do, but before you can say, here's how many machines I need to make something, you need to know how much you can sell. Before you need to know how many people you have, you need to know how much work there's going to be for those people. So everything follows the sales plan. So a few factors in sales plan. First, macroeconomics. What is going on in the economy? What is GDP going to do? What is market growth going to do? And this might be specific to a particular region or country that you operate in. The industry. What are the dynamics in your industry? What is the competition doing? What are the trends in your industry? Are there different tailwinds or headwinds in the industry? There might be legislative pressures where maybe you are a company that operates with oil-based fossil fuel products and there's legislative headwinds. Or maybe you're on the flip side of that where you're an environmentally friendly company and you're going to have governmental legislation shifting customers to you. But what's going on there? Very specific things to your company. So what new products are you developing? Do you have any new sales strategies, new markets you're attacking? Are you doing different things with your pricing? Are there any different trends or initiatives that you're working through? These should be factored in. And then there's a ton of others, right? Do you have contracts that are expiring or new contracts that are going to guarantee volumes for you? What are your competitors doing? Is there seasonality in your business? And, even things like the last few years, what does COVID do to your business? Is there something that's going on that is an external factor that you're not considering? So you just have to think through all these different dynamics as you work through your sales plan to have a more intelligent sales plan. So with that, let's hop into an Excel model and we'll just give you a little taste of what this looks like. All right, so now we're in an Excel file. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you really want to get to the details, go to our website, corporatefinanceacademy.com. Check out our course, Budgeting Bootcamp, where you can learn and go through how to build this up, all the details of it. But right here, I just want to give you a little bit of a taste. So ultimately, you're going to build some sort of template if you're an fp&a leader, and it's going to be blank, and you're going to have all this information in here that they're going to have to fill out. So in this example, it's an ice cream business, and you can see there's nothing in the 2022 budget, but there's 21 actuals in there. So what you're going to have the sales team do is populate these actuals, and you're going to work with them. And what you have here is what would be a completed file. So as you go through here, you can see we're trying to capture information. What channel does the ice cream sell through? And we've got 3 different channels here, the different ice cream products and different flavors, and you have different combinations there. Who are the customers? What does the pricing look like for those different customers? Are there discounts? You have sales directors. Who are the individual salespeople responsible for those? So they'd be the ones that are filling out the budget and ultimately will have their targets for the year, their bonus compensation tied to these numbers. And these columns can vary depending on your business. Are the NPI products? Is it a new customer? Is it already under contract? Or you'll hear people talk about go-gets or businesses that you have to win. These are things that are in the budget that you don't necessarily have line of sight to yet. They're not an existing customer. You have to go win them. Or it's a customer that you're anticipating you're going to go win additional volume with to challenge yourself to grow the business. And in this, what would have happened is the sales team, along with their finance team most likely, would be filling out this budget format to say, here's how many cases we're going to sell. And you have your 21 actuals, and you would, within a file, perhaps have your pricing assumptions, so you know what the price per case is for all of these products, or at least what your assumed price per case is. And you would be calculating against the finance person what this gross sales would be and what the net sales would be, because you have your discount information. So that's what this would look like. And the process itself starts off with baselining in the prior year data, building your file, and then having these conversations with the sales team. From there, the sales team is going to go out and they're going to talk to their customers. They're going to analyze the data. They're going to try to get a feel for the market, what products are trending. And again, the finance team should be supporting them through this and helping them through it. And at the end of the day, they're going to sign up for this. Now, inevitably, you're going to have salespeople that sandbag. They're not going to give you a number that they really think they could get to. They're going to give you a number that they know they can get to so they can achieve their incentive comp. So you have to be careful. You have to review line by line. You have to make sure things make sense. You have to make sure you're challenging them. And ultimately, you'll work with yourself or your finance leaders are going to help to challenge these numbers and make sure there's something that they're not easy to get, but they're not impossible to get. If you make the target too high, the sales team is going to feel demotivated and they're not going to feel like they're going to get to their number, so they're not going to kill themselves. And if it's too low, obviously the business won't grow enough. So this is an exercise in trying to find the sweet spot of what that target looks like. Moving on to production planning. So what is the purpose of it? Well, ultimately you're trying to sort out how much to make. And again, this is focused on a manufacturing business or an industrial business. This will look different. Let's say you're a retail business, you would have a purchasing plan, not a production plan. It's different if you have a SaaS business, some sort of software business. But we focus on manufacturing here just because it's a good baseline. It gives people a good understanding. And there are a lot of manufacturing businesses out there. So what's the purpose? One, tells you how much you need to produce. Ultimately, you have to make the product, and we're going to get into in the Excel how this actually happens. A couple things to think about as you go through the process. One is hard capacity. Do you have enough machines to actually run the product? So if we were doing an ice cream business, if you have 5 different ice cream manufacturing lines, and just by math alone, you would need 7. Well, you don't have enough hard capacity. You could only run 5 lines. You'd have to invest CapEx to build out 2 more lines. Soft capacity. Do you have enough people? So, same example, if you only have enough people to run 4 lines, now it doesn't matter if you have 5, because soft capacity is going to limit you that you can only run 4. So you have machines, you have people, and then you need materials. So raw materials go into creating your finished product. And again, I'll stick with the ice cream business. You're going to need cream and sugar and whatever else goes into particular types or flavors of ice cream. You're going to need all those things. So do you have access to those, and how much do you need to purchase? And when we talk about the purpose of the production plan, similar to the sales plan, it gives the operating team targets so that they can align incentives. And it's going to be things for them like, how much did you produce? What was your on-time delivery to your customers, your fulfillment, scrap in your manufacturing lines, all those sort of things. So what factors play into production planning? 1, do you have the right machine capacity? And that goes back to hard capacity like we talked about on the prior slide, but manufacturing space, you might need warehouse space, and there are other elements that can be a part of that. Do you have enough manpower? So that's soft capacity. Do you currently run 1 shift and now you have to run 2 shifts? Is there any seasonality to your business you have to consider? You also need to think through things like make versus buy. So just because you don't have the hard capacity or the soft capacity doesn't necessarily mean you can't sell it. You may have to outsource it. Or you might have to decide, do you spend CapEx to bring it in-house, or do you continue to outsource it? Then you also have to consider who should make what. If you have multiple factories and some are run at lower cost, then you might shift the work to those lower costs. But you might have some that operate better, or you may have one that has open capacity, but who should make which product? And then productivity. Ultimately, in the manufacturing business, you have to always be driving for productivity. You need to get more product out of the number of hours that you work your teams, and you need to get more productivity out of your machines. And that's things like lean manufacturing strategies and other sorts of productivity-based projects that would help that. But let's head to the Excel so you can get a feel for how this works. Okay, so we're here in the file for the production budget. we're going to keep this high level. We're not going to get into all the details that you would get into of defining what are all your machine capacity, how many shifts are you running, and all of the people elements. But what I'm going to show you is just kind of the general logic of how you walk from a sales forecast to what the production you need to make looks like. So in this item, you're starting with your sales forecast, like we said. So you can see this is a pretty seasonal business. It peaks around the summertime, and then it trails off in the cold months. And it's an ice cream business, so it makes sense. Then you have your inventory needed. So how much inventory do you want to keep on hand? That number is not 0, right? It's based on some number. And in this instance, we're keeping it pretty simple. We're basically setting it equal to next month's demand. So if you're saying you want to end January with 772 cases of ice cream in hand, and that gives you effectively 30 days worth of inventory, 1 month's worth of inventory. And we carry that through. So whatever the next month's need is. So you have your total product needed. And then you actually have to think about what you actually have on hand on the shelf. So at the end of, or starting the month of January, we've got 700 cases on the shelf. So if you walk that math, we're going to sell 795. So that means those are going out the door. We need to have 772 at the end of the month. So total product needed by the end of January is 1,567 cases. But you have 700 on hand. So you back that 700 out of the 1,567, and that says you have to make 867 cases in the month so that you can satisfy all these sales and end with the right amount of inventory. So fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Again, this doesn't walk through the exercise you would do to evaluate capacity across all your machines and how many people you need. And this business in particular would be complex because you really peak with your manufacturing seasonality. So you're going to have to hire a lot of people when you get into the summer months. But that would be a much longer video, so we're not going to go there. We get into a little bit more detail in our budgeting course, as I've mentioned. The link is in the video description, so be sure to check that out if you want to learn more about annual operating plans. That is all we have for you today. I hope that was helpful. I mentioned it a couple times, but check out our other videos on annual operating plans, and be sure to check out our budgeting bootcamp on our website, corporatefinanceacademy.com. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe. If you have questions, put them in the comments or email us, and we'll try to get back to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.